Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Poetry. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the phenomenal poem Belfast Confetti by Ciaran Carson as part of the edXL conflict anthology, but you may be wanting to look at it for other exam boards. This video is going to take you through some aspects of context and the form of the poem, as well as giving a little brief summary. If you want detailed analysis, keep your eyes peeled for the next video coming your way that will focus in on 5 key quotes in a lot of detail. But for now, let's get started. Okay, so what is this poem all about? Belfast Confetti is about a speaker who experiences a bomb blast going off. The poem starts in media res with just the chaos and the destruction all around him. And then the rest of the poem is about the narrator trying to kind of navigate his way through, whilst also trying to kind of make sense of the whole kind of concept of the violence and the destruction. So it's as much about the horrors of war as it is about confusion and the sort of the madness of war, I suppose. Okay, so let's think a little bit about context. So Ciaran Carson was born in 1948. He died just as he turned 70 in 2019, so quite recently. Now, the most important thing, the most useful bit of context is, of course, thinking about the Troubles in Northern Ireland, which went from around 1960 to 1998. The specific date at the beginning is quite difficult to kind of gauge, but they can pin it to 98 because of the Good Friday Agreement, which halted the violence. It's worth just going and having a little read around the subject so that you understand. But in essence, what we've got here is a conflict which is political, but it's also cultural and it's also religious. Essentially, you've got one group of people, largely Protestants, Unionist Loyalist group, and they wanted Northern Ireland to remain part of the United Kingdom. And then on the other side was largely Catholic Irish nationalists and Republic group, and they wanted Northern Ireland to be separate from the United Kingdom and reunited with the rest of Ireland. And that's where the conflict sort of began. I mean, this is a very sort of simplistic, a simplistic summary of it. But, you're talking about over 30 years of incredible violence and conflict. Now, the poet himself had a near-death experience. He was shot at when he was in a taxi in one of these conflicts. Now, the poem doesn't actually cover that. It's not that moment. He has spoken about the fact that it's a fictionalized bombing, so it's coming from his imagination, but it stems from the real conflict. Okay, so he's obviously seen and been involved in conflict himself, and so he is therefore able to write from that perspective. And actually, as you see on the list there, a lot of his poetry is centered around the violence in Northern Ireland and in that period of time. So his poetry is very, very political, as clearly seen in Belfast Confetti. Now, the form is really interesting and it's really easy to write about because it's got a very, very clear impact and effect. So you'll notice that it's in free verse straight away, okay? And what you'll notice, you've got 2 stanzas, they're different lengths, all of the line lengths are varied, you get very, very long lines and then very, very short lines, and you'll notice that there's a sort of sense of fragmentation, particularly in the way that the second sort of part of each line is indented. You've got so much enjambment, and you've also got a lot of punctuation, lots of different punctuation types. But that part of that is because there is this extended metaphor where he uses punctuation to describe aspects of the violence. So the frequency of the punctuation in the poem is also looking at the vastness and the frequency of the destruction. But obviously the easiest way to talk about form here is to think about the way that all of these different devices, the fragmentation, the line length, the enjambment, it creates this sort of feeling of destruction, but also confusion. So the form mirrors the message. And that's all I'm going to say for now. There will be another video coming your way later this week, hopefully, that will look at 5 key quotes from Belfast Confetti that I will analyse fully for language and structure. So if you haven't subscribed, do click that button, and then you'll get a notification for when it's ready. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and happy revising.